Guys, welcome to Off the Cuff. This is the show where we ask the burning questions that you might have, and our guests have no idea what's coming. In fact, you can give us your questions, and if you do and we use it, we might send you something special. My name is Matt Clayton, and today our very special guest is Pastor Alan, as I will refer to as Padre for the rest of this.
Thank you.
Due to his request.
Thank you.
We're going to wrap up a little bit of Sunday's message, The Resistance. I really enjoyed it. You're talking about purpose.
Yep.
What was one of the main things that you had in your heart when you started this series?
Yeah, I think the idea was I've seen so many believers right now, and they're really struggling. And so as opposed to waiting till everything goes back to normal and say, okay, we're going to kind of wait and put our spiritual life on hold, this is the time that we need to begin to resist, because there's just a lot of negativity coming at people and fear and junk.
Yeah.
And so how do we resist that?
Yeah.
That was the idea.
Because you're talking about resistance, what do you think is the biggest threat that the Big C church has right now in the world, like if you were going to say, or Christianity in general?
You know, I think I can't speak for the world. There are parts of the world right now that are dealing with persecution. And as I look at the Christian church, I think we've had things easier to the point where I think a lot of believers are, if things get uncomfortable, a lot of believers are like, what? Well, what's going on?
Yeah.
And we have our brothers and sisters in the world who are just, some of them are dying for their faith. We're not there. I don't think we're going to go there. But I do think we're going to have to develop a different mentality if we're going to make it. I mean, there's just a lot of pressure, and now we have cultural pressure coming against us. Used to be, you're a believer, you're a Christian, everyone's kind of like, oh, where do you go to church? I mean, I grew up in the South.
Yeah.
You grew up in the South.
Texas.
Church was much more a part of life. I think we're now starting to get to where we're accused of things, where there's going to be some heat coming our way. So we need to learn how to toughen up.
That's a good point, because as we're talking about resistance and the fight, and we're talking about purpose and how we get through that. I've heard a minister say, and I agree, it's like we have to, as Christians, learn how to take a punch.
Yeah.
That's a part of fighting. It's not just, I can strike, but also I can take a punch.
Yeah.
What do you think that looks like what does taking a punch look like for a Christian?
Well, that can be so many different things. It can be where you're trying to do everything right and somebody just criticizes you. You have someone turn on you. Well, you can really, I can do a number on your heart. I've watched how people have responded with church not being able to meet.
Right.
And some people are just so angry, and they're angry at us because, we haven't done what they thought we should have done. And I thought we need to be able to handle adversity when it comes and push back. And so.
And not freak out by it.
And not freak. Yeah.
It's like something can come my way and I don't just lose everything.
Yeah, exactly. There are folks that, man, they do great as long as everything is perfect.
Right.
But you throw a problem in the mix, and man, and so what we have to learn to do is be able to handle problems as they come and to be able to push past them. So we're not just constantly living in these places where, okay, I got problems, and then no problems, and then problems. And so it's that's kind of an inconsistent way to live.
Yeah, like a fighting mindset. A fighter is like a punch. I'm not trying to avoid every punch. I'm trying to get the right punch.
That's a great point. And I think even just reading, if you read any kind of material on how do you, if you're an entrepreneur, how do you do a business? You got to be able to. You got to be able to take problems head on. I think we have had a tendency to run from problems and avoid them, ignore them, as opposed to leaning into them. And so the resistance involves, I'm going to lean into this. I'm not going to run from it. I'm not going to act like, it doesn't exist. Right. I'm not going to go, well, praise God, just going to go away one day. I'm able to lean into it. And the leaning in is a whole lot better than just waiting for something to land on you.
I like the fact that you talked about we have an enemy. And you were talking even last week about how when you and Mom were dealing with your marriage issues, you came to the realization that, this might not be us actually might be an enemy trying to separate us.
Right.
Why do you think the church world or people have ignored that or not known about it? What do you think that is?
60% of Christians don't believe there is a devil.
Yeah.
And so, according to the polls. And so I think people have, it's kind of, we're too educated for that. Which is the most brilliant strategy for the enemy. I do not exist. That's his number one strategy. I'm not real. Well, then you have people that look at God as he's the source of all the stuff that's going on. I believe that for anything. God's not the source of that explosion in Lebanon that killed so many people. That's not God. Yeah. And so there is evil in the world. There is an enemy. We have an enemy. And again, because I'm emphasizing that we live in a spiritual environment, we have a spiritual enemy. And so because we can't see him or he doesn't show up with a pitchfork and horns, people think he doesn't exist. But the thoughts that come our way, the feelings, the dread, the fear, the anxiety, we have an enemy.
Yeah, that's really good. I loved what you're talking about today with purpose. And especially out of Colossians, the first chapter, taking that, breaking that down, and going, here's the purpose for every single Christian. Which I thought, I've read that verse, I've meditated on it, I've never seen that as, hey, this is a great
I never have either. I mean, that's just that's the beautiful thing about a relationship with the Lord is just when you think you know everything, we don't know it. We don't know everything. I actually saw that this week, and and I went, there it is.
Yeah.
Because, it's easy for me as a pastor to go, well, I have a purpose. I'm a pastor and I preach and I'm a little bit like a Nehemiah. I help build walls, for people.
You get the people together. Hey, let's build this. Let's do this.
But what about the mom who stays at home?
Right. And
what about the school teacher? What about, is there a purpose there? And so realizing there's an overarching purpose. And Colossians just touches it, but it's an overarching purpose. Yeah. Then I still have to walk worthy of the Lord as a pastor. This is why you see sometimes people, I don't understand it. They're a minister, they're a preacher, and they fell. Well, you're being a preacher can't be your only purpose. You better have a bigger purpose. Wow. And that's to walk worthy. That's to be fully pleasing to the Lord. And that's why you see preachers' kids go nuts. Because what they see in the pulpit, what they see at home, doesn't coincide.
And
that's your problem.
That's my problem. Yeah. My theory on preachers' kids too is because we have a lot more responsibility than other people. Growing up in the church, growing up around, we have a lot more teaching.
Okay, I never put that pressure on you.
We know a lot, yes, which I appreciate. But
I put that on you.
I agree with you. I think something you told me when I was coming off the mission field back home, you told me something that changed, I think, my entire worldview. And my purpose was,
Get a job.
Yeah. Cut your hair. It was, you're not a missionary, then a Christian.
Right.
You're a Christian, then a missionary.
Yeah.
And my identity was wrapped up in the mission that I was doing and losing that. But you were like, you're a Christian first. And I think that's what this is. It's like, you're not a pastor first, you're a Christian first. You're a follower of Jesus.
Right.
That's your primary purpose.
That's what I can, when I'm not in the pulpit tomorrow morning, that's what I can wake up with.
Right.
And run with that purpose as opposed to just simply doing messages. And this is where some of the conflict comes in ministry. Yeah. If you build your identity around your ministry, then, boy, you're up and down with it.
But if you build your identity with anything,
I know.
With your job,
that might be next week. That might be. I might talk about identity next week.
Okay, real quick, a couple more questions. Okay. How do you? I know you brought up the point, and it's like, so we learn more about God. We walk in a manner worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing of Him, fruitful in every good work.
Yeah.
How do you walk How do you walk worthy of the Lord? Because that's like, what does that practically look like?
Well, it's going to look like doing what you know to do at where you are right now. So if you're brand new, you've just come into a relationship with the Lord, walking worthy as you doing everything you can just to kind of keep that relationship. Someone like yourself, you've grown up in a Christian home, you understand a little bit more of what the scriptures say. Yeah. Someone like me, more responsible than that. And so really walking worthy involves living a lifestyle that the Lord goes, no, that's one of mine. We used to ask you, children, not because you're pastor's kids, but because you're raised in our family, do what needs to be done. You walk like we raised you right.
Right.
And so,
And to whom more is given, more is required.
yeah. But so you're brand new into this. The responsibility is going to be a little different from someone who knows better and knows what to do.
That does make sense.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's definitely something that's like, well, how do I walk worthy of the Lord in my life? It's a tall
Well,
order,
well,
and I think
well-
it's not just I can do whatever I want.
No, you can't do whatever you want. You know, you remember that time that we got time for this?
Yeah.
Okay. You remember that time you and I were in the car, and I think I had a truck at the time, and some lady gets in my lane
Yep.
and
Yep.
in my left lane and slows down, and I'm like, oh, I'm about to give her the horn.
Yeah.
And she looked over me and what did you say?
I said might be a church member.
Might be a church member. And I backed off the horn and didn't blow because I was conscious of the fact that as a pastor, it's probably not a good optic to see, your pastor, blowing a horn at you. And so walking worthy of my role as a pastor constrained my behavior. Walking worthy of our role as a believer is going to constrain my behavior, how I treat people, how I talk to people, whether I lie, whether I cheat, that's what I'm talking about.
Which goes into angry Christians. Doesn't help us. That's not walking worthy of the Lord.
It's not helping.
You don't see that.
Well, the Bible says that the wrath of man does not work the righteousness of God. And so,
What does that mean?
well, it means we're so angry we don't recognize that we've been placed in right standing with God. If anyone has a right to be angry, it's God, and he's been merciful to us. So we're not showing the righteousness of God when we're angry.
That's a really good point. One last question.
Shoot.
I really love this point that you made, and I've never really heard you say it this way. You said church is not your purpose.
there you go.
Going to church is not your purpose.
It's not your purpose.
But church's purpose is to
Help you
fulfill your purpose.
Right.
You want to unpack that a little bit?
Have we got time?
Got a couple minutes. Give me one more minute to unpack that.
I think some people have felt like church is, I go to church, I've done my religious duty. Okay, I checked the box, done my religious
That's
duty.
it. That's Christianity.
That's it. And maybe this is why some people, the angry ones, are thinking that's my purpose. It's not my purpose. Church is to help me, build me, strengthen me, equip me to fulfill my purpose. So to learn, to grow. Remember, the last thing is increasing in the knowledge of God. Well, that's one of the reasons that church is there.
Increasing in every good work, fruitful.
Fruitful in every good work, yeah. But I'm here to help you get stronger spiritually so you can fulfill your purpose.
It's not about going to church.
It's not just about going to church, but you need to go to church because it's going to help strengthen you. You can stay out of it, it's going to hurt you.
Strengthens your hands for the work.
There you go.
And that wraps up Off the Cuff. Great message. Listen to it again. It's available on YouTube. It's available on Facebook, podcasts,
It's free.
everywhere. It's free.
It's free.
And if it's free, there's really no excuse. Pop it in when you're driving, when you're working, whatever it is. It's really going to help you grow, strengthen your hands to the purpose God has for you. Guys, catch us soon. We'll have more episodes coming up later on. Thank you.